Hello, CCA families. This episode of the podcast is actually going to be brought to you in two parts. Part one is we're going to be talking to two of our CCA staff members that are kind of starting this new career pathways program. And we're going to be talking to them about the pathways program and then how students get involved and some of the things that services and things that they can provide to families. The second part of this episode is going to be us actually speaking with a company located in York called Marketex that has hosted a CCA intern. And we're going to talk to him a little bit about what the experience was like hosting a CCA student and some of the things that they had the student do as part of the internship program, and talk about, kind of his experience as somebody who's hosted and mentored one of our students through an internship program. So with that being said, let's get right to it, and hope you enjoy both parts of the episode. Coming to you now is part one. Hello and welcome to this episode of the We Are CCA podcast. Today's episode is going to be a little bit different. We are actually going to be talking with the two individuals that are heading a new program, well, sort of a revision on an old program, which is kind of taking on a new form, and talking about some of the opportunities that program is going to offer our CCA students. So if you guys want to go ahead and introduce yourselves, and then we'll jump right into talking about your program.
Sure. My name is Barry King. I'm the STEM Conservatory Manager.
Hi, I'm Charlene Swoboda, and I'm the Arts and Humanities Conservatory Manager.
So it's my understanding that you guys are working on putting together a new program that will give students the opportunity for career experience. Can you talk a little bit about, the idea of the program, kind of the mission and the vision of it all?
Sure. Jake, I think it's really evolving from our additional programs that we have now, the STEM and the Arts Conservatory, into more career pathways model. And the reason being for that is I think CCA really feels that we should be preparing for our students for life after CCA, be college or career ready. So we're looking at ways to develop pathways for our students, and those pathways include academic courses, technical courses, industry certifications, and a big part of what Charlene and I do is work-based learning. And so we're trying to give students experiences in an actual in the workforce to determine if that's what their true interests are. And from there, they can help take the appropriate courses, and we'd like to see different industry certifications. But so that's the career pathway that we're looking. And I know they're still looking at dual enrollment courses as well. So that career pathway encompasses a lot of different components. But that work-based component is really what we're working with and working with business and industry.
And Charlene, and you and I have been talking a little bit about the program outside, away from the podcast. Talk a little bit about some of the experiences that students have already had with either the visual arts or the other STEM or the conservatory program.
Yeah, I'd love to, because what we do is so exciting. It's really neat to read the journals that the students keep as they're in their experiences. Each week they write a journal about what's happening in their internships, where they've been placed after figuring out what career interest, where their strengths and interests lie. So two people wrote this week that their experiences were exhilarating, and it was the first time I read. It was the first time I read that in the log, and it just made me so happy. So example experiences that some of our students are participating with. One of our there's so many. One student tried an internship as a baker at a local college, and actually she found out she didn't like it.
And there's value in that, right?
There's
a value
in
in understanding what you don't want to do, so that you're not kind of wasting time and resources and money exploring those options after high school.
Tremendous value. And she realized that. So we reopened the conversation looking at her strengths and her interests. And she always had thought, I want to be a baker and music's just a hobby. And we kind of flipped that. And just for more exploration in career fields, she's now thinking, well, maybe baking's the hobby and music could become a career. And she's also very interested in helping people, counseling, psychology. So she's actually in a music therapy internship right now. She participates in drumming circles with students with Tourette syndrome. She's doing counseling with students with developmental disabilities. Also, she works with some autistic students right now. So it's an example of how what she started doing, she wouldn't have known that unless she had those authentic experiences. And that's where I think we can provide so much benefit to our students. You figure this out before you graduate high school, before you pay the money to go to college. If you need college, some careers you don't need college. So you figure all this out while you're in school, try things out in high school. So you're on a better pathway for life, for success.
Yeah, and I worked in guidance here for a number of years. So the first 5 years that I was here, and I had the conversation all the time with students, like, well, I gotta get my diploma so I can go to college, and I'm like, well why? What's the means to the end? Because college is not necessarily the end all be all. I know a lot of people. I mean, I have a friend of mine that retired from working the railroad. And was making $132,000 a year, and now he worked his way up, but they paid for every level of schooling that he needed to advance, and he never had to pay a dime. And, when he retired early at 52 and he's sitting pretty, and he's like, had I gone to college, I may not have had this be the end result. So it's not always I do think that students should be encouraged to, the career should be the focus. The career is the target. You want to find what that career is going to be, and then figure out what the necessary pathway has to be to reach that target. If college is not on that line, then what are we doing talking about college?
Right.
Let's have a different conversation.
It's a learning path.
Yes.
And I think it's a process that a student needs to go through, and they need support in doing that process to determine what the best path is for them. And that's what Barry and I do in working with students in conjunction with the guidance counselors here. And we're a team that's there to support the students. We can't tell you what you should do, and you could do one experience, but it wouldn't be as beneficial as trying multiple ones, comparing. And the students' work schedules are so flexible that it would be a shame not to take advantage of authentic learning opportunities within our community that exist. Like if you were in a brick and mortar school and you have to go to school from whatever it is to a certain time frame, it's a lot more difficult to obtain an experience during the daytime, for instance, in a sample profession that you want to try out, whether it's an actual immersive internship or even if it's observing like in a job shadow. That's very beneficial too. We encourage our students to do that as well.
The other thing I found too is like when you're talking to a student, a lot of times you get the question about, why do I have to take this course, or why do I have to learn geometry, or why do I have to learn this? And there are real world applications to those skills. It's not necessarily about, learning, A squared plus B squared equals C squared. It's about learning the skills to kind of that it teaches you in the pathways of thinking that those things teach you, and how it applies to real life. And if you can find that connection and use that career as, a way to connect what they're learning in their books to how it applies to real life, it makes their courses and the things that they're doing in school meaningful and purposeful. There's not you don't have to answer the why question anymore. They know why they have to take geometry, and they're more and they seem to be more accepting of, okay, well, I guess I need to take this class.
That's one of the big advantages of our career pathway model is that we align your career path to the academic courses. And I'll give you a couple examples. We have a lot of young students who want to pursue a career in healthcare. So yeah, you want to take anatomy, physiology, and medical terminology. If you want to be in carpentry, you want to take business and technical writing and AutoCAD. And there's a couple other courses that escape me right now. But I want to share another experience that I personally had that benefits of students out there in internships. And this person worked for Geisinger, not worked for Geisinger, but volunteered at Geisinger. And she did that for a year. I inherited her, so I don't have any credit in this. But she was offered to the pharmacy technician course. They said, we need pharm techs. Would you be interested in taking the course? And she's, yeah, I'd love to take the course. So she took the course, was hired as a pharmacy tech, was paying about $13 an hour, part-time, still going to CCA the whole time. And so after 2 years of doing this, they said, would you want to be an RN? Now, her career goal was to be a physician's assistant. It was not to be an RN. But financially, they said, we will pay you to be an RN at our RN school if there's a contract that you have to stay with us. But she said, I would love to. So she changed her career goal from physician's assistant to an RN, and they're very close. But nonetheless, just from her experience of showing up on time, taking advantage of opportunities, being a good student, good attitude, pleasure to work with, they offered her opportunities. And I see a lot of that in healthcare right now. They're trying to grow their own talent, so to speak, develop their own talent. They really don't want to bring people in because of the turnover is very, very high. So they want to grow within their communities. And so I think students who have a focus in healthcare are extremely fortunate right now, because I've seen so many good stories like that.
Do you see any opportunities for these types of programs to be, or internships to be available to students who are interested in learning trades or somewhere along those lines?
Oh, absolutely. The construction industry is really at a critical time in their employees. A lot of the skilled construction workers are retiring, and we don't have the pipeline coming in. We really don't. Young people do not see that as a viable career path. However, we've been working with ABC, it's Association of Builders and Contractors out of Lidditz, and they want to establish a pre-apprenticeship program with us, where our kids would go to them for 65 hours, 5 hours a day, 13 weeks. They would go through their pre-apprenticeship and then connect to one of their apprenticeship programs with one of their contractors, which is paid. So that's the career path we're trying to develop. That's only in a discussion stage. It's not agreed upon yet. However, we have a lot of students who are interested. We're visiting ABC in a couple weeks to see their training facility. Students are coming to visit. Parents are coming to visit. So parents are. I still think, as you know, being a guidance counselor, parents are still a big part of the decision making, and so convincing them that this career path is viable and there's a future in it is equally important as the student making that decision.
The part that's so exciting about this to me is that I think it's starting to programs like what you guys are setting up really starts to change the conversation that we have with our students about the next step, right? So, I remember in my guidance counselor's office, they had the poster of the gentleman wearing, half of him was in a construction outfit, half of him was in a suit, and it was work smarter, not harder. Mm-hmm. And it's just, I don't know that necessarily is the right message to be sending to students. I don't know that we can separate, hard work from, the things that you do in a corporate setting or in an mm-hmm. office setting or whatever. I think it's important to have these real conversations with students about the truth that college is not. It's a great thing, and it does a lot of great things for a lot of people, but it's expensive, and it's getting more and more expensive to do it. And let's talk about a career where you can go to it every day. It kind of matches your personality. It matches your interest areas. And you can go to that career every day and feel satisfied and feel like you're making a meaningful impact with your community, with the people that you interact with on a day-to-day basis, and it satisfies something internally for you. It's not just I'm doing this job because it pays a lot of money. Do you find that you're having that conversation more often with students?
Yeah, I guess a few things came to mind while you were speaking, Jake. Like one thing, like the poster you referred to, of course, it's always important to work hard. It's that work ethic is a soft skill that's valuable for any job that you take. There's certain soft skills in common with everything. And of course, you want to work smarter. They go in hand. I think probably the point of the poster and what I'm finding to answer your question is it's about the intention. So once we know what a student's interests and where their strengths lie and how those can come together and connect them with the opportunities within the greater community, then they're living with greater intention. And that's the courses they choose at CCA. It's the mentors they're meeting to create networking so that further opportunities can expand throughout the years. It's figuring out what school, what college or training program they might participate with. It's all about living intentionally, I think.
If I could add one couple things. Identifying that career path is so very important. You talked about college, and let's just expand on that, because when you decide, I'm going to college, you got to get up and move, all right? And you get a tuition bill, every year, every semester. And I've seen young people who've been very intelligent, lots of talent, but they're in college, they change their major 2 or 3 times, not sure of this, not sure of that. Meanwhile, they're not graduating to the 5th year or even the 6th year. So, and then they come out, and like you pointed out, is that financial loan payment, builds and builds and builds. So you really got to think about the ramifications of making those decisions, because you move away, and you got to make sure you're a career major. And if we do these career pathways right, I've seen young people so convinced what they wanted to do. They go in, they graduate in 3 years, they go all year round, they're in and out, and they're working after 3 years, and usually in a good salary. They're so focused, and it's just really gratifying as a professional educator to see students that willing to work hard for something they know it's down the line. So
and I certainly don't want to kind of bash the whole college experience. I think college is a great thing. And it does a lot of great things for a lot of people. It points them and prepares them for a career that they are excited to embark upon, and they go on to do really, really great things. But I think I do think that there has to be an honest conversation about. I think the target should always be, the career. The career should be the focus, and if we can. If the pathway includes college, fantastic. Let's figure out how to get you there. Let's figure out how we're gonna make sure that you don't, that you can pay for it, and that you're not going to graduate with a ton of debt. Let's make smart decisions about where we decide to go and what we want to do, and let's make sure that you have some of these hands-on experiences that you guys are talking about before we make that leap, so that exactly when you go to college that you are preparing for a career that you 100% are committed to doing. I'll give you a personal experience. I thought I was going to be a teacher. I went to college. I took the educational courses. I was studying to be a history teacher, and I thought that's the way I'm going to go. And then I went and had to do some classroom experience. I went to an IU where I had to teach a lesson once a week to a group of kids, and I absolutely I did not like standing in front of 30 kids teaching a lesson. But what I did find was that when I was working with students one-on-one, and I was connecting with them on an individual level, helping them overcome obstacles on an individual level, that I was like, oh, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. Like, this is where, this is what excites me. And that has kind of shaped, my career path. I changed majors. I did all that. And it shaped, my direction. Without that experience, I would have just gone along and been a teacher, and, teaching's a great thing. It just wasn't the right fit for me. And that's kind of, that for me, having had that experience, I'm very passionate about making sure that we're having those conversations with students now rather than having to figure that out, a semester and a half
Jake,
into your college experience.
If I could just point out, the parents that I interact with, these are 12th graders, 11th graders, and they're so concerned about their child's future. They don't know the labor market. They don't know the opportunities. They might never went to college themselves, so they really don't know that process. So that next step for their young person is very, very challenging. So I think these career pathways and giving their young person experiences really reassures them and it really finds a way to support their young person as well. So I just noticed that parents need that assistance just as much as our young people do.
So Charlene, how do students get involved? Who do they contact? Where do they go? How does it work for them?
If you would like to participate in an internship, a job shadow, then you want to come join our Career Pathways course. We have two courses. Career Pathways 1 prepares you for the actual experience that you'll do in Career Pathways 2. So in Career Pathways 1, you develop the soft skills, you do some of the research involved in figuring out who you are, what your intention is, you explore careers. In Career Pathways 2, you've kind of figured a lot of it out and you're trying things out authentically. So there is an application you can fill out within the data views. I think it's still called the conservatory application. And it's not to say that those conservatory events, which I know were well loved, are still here. We still have them at CCA. We have run some within the conservatory, but a lot of them are happening within field trips still. They're great experiences, but they're just not the immersion we feel like the students need to properly prepare them for their future. So if you do an event through field trips, and there are STEM events, arts and humanities and STEM events there, if you do one that you like and something sparks inside of you and you think, oh, I really want to try this out for a potential job, then you want to think about coming to Career Pathways at that point. So you can get some support in further research and trying a job out, or following someone in a job shadow, following an expert in a job shadow. Or doing informational interviews with experts that we can connect you to. That's how you learn about the things that spark your interests, and that's how you figure out how you want to live.
So if you have a student who maybe isn't quite interested in kind of getting involved with the program in depth, but they're looking for some career, kind of exploring some career options, are there some websites or things that you would recommend that they do just to kind of do a little bit of research on their own individually?
Well, my advice is that CCA offers a great selection of courses at the high school level, both mainly electives. If you want to go into business or finance, there's a lot of great accounting courses, marketing courses, entrepreneurship courses. Like I said about the healthcare courses that we have in anatomy, physiology, medical terminology. If you're interested in IT, there's video gaming, there's programming. So my suggestion would be to look at those courses if you have an interest and try one to see if you like that content. So that would be one piece of advice I would give to parents and students in pursuing something.
Thanks, Barry. I would also add in the art department, if you are at all interested in becoming any kind of a visual artist, you want to really start developing a portfolio. And an online digital portfolio is great, but you should also have a physical portfolio too of your artwork. Just start compiling it. It doesn't have to be formal to start. Just have a place to have your best pieces to showcase your work. That's something we can help you make more professional looking, but you should have that to share, because if you're a visual artist, that's how people get to know you. They look at what you've created. And of course you have to learn how to talk about that work too, but the physical piece is so important. So definitely I would recommend doing that for the arts.
And you talked about websites. If you look at the Pennsylvania Career Links, tons of information about for high school students, really students who do not have any idea about what they want to pursue. The PA Career Links do a lot of, from age 16 to 24, work with our young people. Career One Stop, WW Career One Stop's another one.
That's a good one.
The Pennsylvania Department of Labor has a lot of things also that you could access. And the Department of Labor has a site called High Priority Occupations. And it's one thing you don't want to do is invest in an occupation that, one, you're not going to get paid, and two, there's no jobs. So that's all part of that career decision-making process. So you want to look at the job outlook, and you can do that on Career One Stop or with the Pennsylvania Department of Labor High Priority Occupations. And they do that by county, so you can really zero in the growth of a specific occupation.
Well, yeah, from my experience, one of the sites that we've used in the past is pacareerzone.org. They have an interest profiler that you can take. It's a 180 questions, but it's a very short survey. It's giving you career tasks or things that you might do for a career, and you go like, dislike, or I don't know. And you take those, you answer the 180 questions, and it gives you a profile of kind of where your interests lie, and then you can find careers that match that interest profile at different levels of education. So all the way from high school diploma all the way up through, a master's degree and PhD and all that. So that was another great one too, where you can click on and explore. There's a lot of videos in there. You can learn a lot about some different careers that you may not have even thought about pursuing, but that you find might match your interests. So
that is a great one, Jake, and it's so great that we've included it in our Career Pathways course.
Yes.
That's actually one of the steps that we do. We have the students do the profiler, but also sit down with people who are very knowledgeable about the industry, people who have lived it. Their thumb is on the pulse of what's happening now, and they can help interpret the results for meaning in today's economy. So what I would say is what those results tell you, they'll suggest some careers for you, but it's not just about what that survey spits out. It's having then a conversation with families and with students to kind of read between the lines and hear what they're saying about, do you want to live close to home? Are you willing to move? What's the industry like here versus in another state? There's just a lot that doesn't come out in that survey that I think we can really help you with, and some of the consultants we work with can really be of help in that way.
Well, I got to tell you, this program is something that really, from a CCA staff perspective, from just looking at it from a person that works for the school, I'm so excited that we do it. I'm so happy that this is something that is offered to our students. I think it's an opportunity that I know this is going to explode your program, but I think every high school student should be involved in this program, whether it's just taking the career pathways to figure out what their interests are, or following up going up through and going into internships and having that real world experience. I think it's just such a valuable thing that you offer to our students, and I could not be any happier that we have individuals working, with students and with that focus in mind, with that means to an end and finding those pathways. I just think it's so important. And I can't tell you what great things I've heard from students about their experiences with with doing the internships in the past and things that you've done. And it's just been great. So I just appreciate it.
Can I thank you? Yeah. And it's my pleasure. I mean, it's so much fun to see students find their passions, get this, you see the spark, and then it ignites, and to see them go out and do things. I mean, I love my job. It's really fun to do. So I'd love to share a couple more experiences to give you an idea of what some of our students are doing.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, so here's some more. So I told you about a student who tried baking, and now she's doing music therapy. I have another student, I'm really proud of her. She is interested in politics and law in some aspect. She is part of Youth and Government Club, which is a great thing to do if you have those interests. But in addition, she took an internship with a women's crisis center, and she just completed 40 hours of training, 21 hours of training online in things like active listening, abuse and the techniques to do to protect yourself and to help other people. Then she did 19 hours of in-person training with a mentor. And now for the first time, just last week, she was able to go to the courthouse with her mentor and some of the women she works with, and they were able to do pleas at the courthouse to get like restraining orders and different things to help protect women from domestic violence. And I was so proud of her, but it took, it took like 2 months of all this training and just to be able to walk into the courthouse and be able to be part of that. And I'm so happy for her. And she was one of my ones who wrote exhilarating in her log. So, I'm sure it wasn't so exhilarating when you were doing all of that work to prep you for that. Some things were interesting, but I know it was very difficult too. And she really stuck with it to learn what she needed to do to be able to obtain the experiences she's having now, which is fabulous.
Barry, do you have any other experience you'd like to share?
I got to share with you how things even changed in the course of an internship. We had a gentleman who wanted to be a computer programmer, really skilled at it and very knowledgeable, but he got with an IT firm, and then he started working with the customers. And he would work with a customer interface to make sure the project was meeting their expectations. And he really enjoyed that component of it, of working with the software engineers, looking what they were accomplishing, and then communicating that to the customer. And so he really feels that he's looking not to be a computer programmer, hardcore programmer anymore, but somebody who's like that project manager for IT jobs. So it was fascinating just to hear his career growth and his perspective after he got exposed. Because sometimes he just thought, I want to be a programmer. Now he sees so much more.
Yeah, like it's just such a, like, why wouldn't you do this? Like, why doesn't every school do this, where you have these experiences for students so that they can, figure those things out now? I mean, one of the things that I really like about CCA is that we are statewide. So you might have students who live, say, in an urban environment. They're surrounded, by concrete, but they might have an interest in science, but have never really, or natural resources or whatever. But they've never really thought about exploring that because they don't live it and breathe it on a day-to-day basis, because it's not something that they're immersed in, right? But you can take a student from those types of areas and bring them out to internships and let them experience that and see, what, I am interested in forestry. I live in a concrete jungle, but I want to be in the mountains, and kids that live in rural environments might find opportunities that excite them about being in the city. They might like the hustle and bustle. They might like, working in that kind of environment. And you if you're stuck in a brick and mortar setting, you can't have those variety of experiences. So, like I said, I could go on and on and on about this. I think this program is fantastic. I can't wait to see what you guys do next year and all the different opportunities. I'm going to do everything I can to plug the program and promote it so that you guys are too busy to sit down for a minute. So we're going to keep you very, very busy. So I just appreciate you coming in, plugging the program a little bit, and having an opportunity to tell us a little bit about it. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Have a good one. Thanks again for tuning in to part 1 of the Career Pathways podcast. Be on the lookout for part 2 that will be released very shortly in the next couple of days for the second half of this. In the meantime, if you'd like to learn more about the Career Pathways program or some of the internship opportunities that are available to CCA students, please check out our blog at www.ccaeducate.me. And remember, we are CCA.